I must include that 9 of them were foreign teachers. So we asked the opinions of teachers working at the School of Foreign Languages. And the qualitative data were collected through 6 open-ended questions. We asked the teachers to describe their experiences in this new term. The first question was, what kind of difficulties have you experienced in online classroom teaching this semester? When we asked the same question in the previous year, we had really, the picture of real problems experienced in terms of technical and, infrastructure issues. The second question asked, compared to last semester, what kind of strong points of online classroom can you identify for this semester? Third question, what skills do you think the students develop best during online distance teaching this semester? We asked these questions about the skills because last year, both the students and teachers were so much worried about the speaking skills that couldn't be improved because of the lack of interaction due to the system we used. And what skills do you think the students still couldn't develop during the online distance teaching this semester? And compared to last semester, what differences have you observed in student attitudes and behaviors towards distance learning? Because in our previous study, there was high levels of resistance to distance education. Students said, I'm not learning, I do not feel like I'm learning. So there was some kind of resistance from both students and teacher side. And last question was, what factors had effects on the changes in students' attitudes towards distance education, if any, of course? So these research questions aim to explore the difficulties we had, the strong points we have now, and skills that improved best and least, and differences in students' attitudes and possible reasons for these differences. We utilized again qualitative data analysis tools and content analysis, and we applied conventional content analysis in which the coding categories were directly developed from the text data. Okay, the first question asked about the challenges and difficulties in the online classrooms. Technical problems was still the most frequently mentioned item. This included technical problems caused both from the teacher's side and the student's side, because the teachers stated that either from my computer or any computer from the students, if there is some kind of sound problem, screen problems, freezing screens, and internet, if it's not fast enough, they experience problems. So technical problems was still the most frequently experienced difficulty. Students refusing to have their cameras on. This became a problem because, the courses in School of Foreign Languages are expected to be interactive. Although the students were speaking, the teachers couldn't have a clear idea of how much they are really involved in the learning process because they had their cameras off. And lack of participation, like in the previous year, it's one of the problems. Some students did not participate regularly. And time constraints, although we increased the course hours, it seems that there are still some problems about pacing, let's say. And low attendance levels and students' lack of necessary equipment were the major problems experienced by the teachers. The next question asked, what changes did you observe when you compared with the previous semester? And the top mentioned item was using a different, more interactive platform was the strongest point we had. This was mentioned by most of the teachers. And of course, due to this change in the platform, there were more interaction, and also assigning students with the homework. We used Google Classroom and more organized, let's say, websites. And this was also an advantage. And increased readiness for online classrooms, higher participation rates. You may think that in the problems, they said low participation, but when you compare it with the previous term, teachers think that there's higher participation and attendance rate, because it's one of the assessment criteria set at the very beginning of the year. This time, we could tell the students that we wanted their participation. And increased motivation, more structured and clearly set teaching and learning experiences based on, of course, online learning, and more smooth implementations. So we asked...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are 2 minutes left. Can you please wrap up? Sorry for it.
Oh, really?
Sure.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay. So let me move this part very quickly. Teachers thought that not only the language skills, but also autonomy, time management and computer skills developed. Okay. And the least developed skills was still the teachers were worried about the speaking, communication, and collaboration skills of students due to all these constraints. And things were different in terms of students' attitudes and behaviors, because they are more motivated to learn. Higher participation rates and assessment criteria help them. And teachers said both we as teachers and students were ready in terms of equipment and motivation, let's say. These factors, of course, the experience gained in the process, and getting used to the new conditions, not fighting with the reality of online education, were some of the factors that affected. Of course, assessment also important. And the results indicated differences between the two teaching experiences, with changed attitudes and conditions of all the stakeholders, students, instructors, and administration. Of course, this increased readiness was resulted from the use of a more interactive platform and a higher autonomy. These were the positive sides. But of course, teachers thought that speaking skills, communicative skills, and collaboration couldn't be developed enough. So new decisions could be, of course, face-to-face education. I mean, online education cannot replace face-to-face learning, but it could be improved under these conditions. So teachers could be provided with trainings, and also students need some life skills, like in terms of technical things in their learning processes. Learning management systems are not sufficient for having interactive communication, so administrator can think of using more interactive platforms. And students' motivation is driven by extrinsic goals, so maybe assessment criteria could be set very clear to maintain that, at least that motivation for a long time. And we should help our students to develop lifelong learning skills, because the new world is, requires this skill. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hocam, for this fruitful presentation. This is what we have experienced in those 2 years, so it was really a fruitful presentation. We will have the presentation of the certificates at the last 5 minutes of this session. So if you will be here until the end, we will be happy. So thank you very much for the presentation again. So I want to introduce our second speaker. Can you please stop share so that I can share our screen? Okay, thank you. So our next speaker will be Mafia Sofian. Are you here? So he is the assistant professor at University of Tamanrasset, Algeria. And the title of the presentation is Challenge of Teaching Literature Online in Light of COVID-19. So for our presenters, can you please check the chat box for the time, because I'm going to write it there for the finalization of your presentation. So you have 20 minutes. And in the last 5 minutes, we will have the presentation of the certificate. So the floor is yours, dear Mafia Sofiane, and you can share your screen and the floor is yours. Now I give the permission. I cannot see the name. Are you here by?
Burcu hocam sizin kapandı.
Yeah, I cannot see the name here. Can the user be our speaker, our presenter? I cannot see him here.
Meysam hocam vardı.
I'm sorry?
Meysam hocam.
Yes.
Meysam, yeah.
Meysam hocam.
Yes.
Is it the third speaker, by the way? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm the first.
Yeah, so let's start with Meysam hocam. So, and then if Sofian will be here, we are going to let him present his presentation. So this is now our third speaker. She is the researcher from University of People, Syria, and the title of the presentation is Teaching Language Skills, Writing, Reading, Speaking, Listening Online, which is a really important and interesting topic. So the stage is yours. Thank you, and I'm going to share the time from the chat box. So you have 20 minutes, so the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So you can share your screen. I'll stop it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll start sharing my presentation. Okay. Yes. Okay, hello everyone. My presentation is about teaching language skills online. Yes. Now, the main purpose of teaching a language is helping students to communicate. When students communicate, they use both receptive and productive skills. And this is our mission when we teach our students, is to involve receptive and productive skills to help students in their listening. When we do so, students will be more interested, they will be more involved in the learning, because they will find, or what they will find inside the classroom resembles what they find outside the classroom. This is what we call communicative language teaching, which emphasizes all of the 4 skills and which provides meaningful learning. Now, if we notice, most of the problems of online education are related to communication. Lack of communication leads to lack of motivation, leads to lack of interaction, and of course, social isolation. Even the solutions that are suggested, the solutions that Duan has suggested to these problems are also related to communication, like interactive lessons, collaborative learning, and also they are related to integrating the skills like the project-based learning approach and the group-based learning approach. So let's start with the first skill, which is listening, which is a passive skill. Now, when I say it's a passive skill, it means students only receive, they do not produce, they are not productive. This is why I need another skill to support this passive skill and help students interact and provide feedback, maybe participate in debating. as well. But at the same time, passive listening is also helpful in asynchronous learning, as teachers can help struggling students by sending them recordings, sending them maybe videos. Those students can pause the video or the recording whenever they want. They can repeat it as many times as they want. They can also look up the meaning of a word in the dictionary. So the way to teach passive listening is only through asynchronous learning. Leave synchronous learning only for active listening. Now, we said that listening is passive. How can we make it active? Simply by involving another skill that helps students become active listeners. Sorry. Yes, now to do this, we have to talk first about speaking skill, which is an active skill or which is a productive skill. And we'll talk about how we can use this skill or integrate it with listening in order to provide students with meaningful or authentic activities. The first thing that we can do is inviting guests to our online sessions. We can invite social media stars, we can invite authors, we can invite company owners, we can invite anyone who we cannot invite in our real classrooms. And this is a privilege for online teaching. And when we do so, when we invite those guests, students will become more motivated to practice listening and practice speaking with those guests, because they know that we are talking to real people and discussing real issues. Even presentations can be collaborative. We can divide students and send them to breakout rooms to practice their presentations and to receive feedback from their peers using this checklist that I can also send to students when they are preparing for their presentations. Also, I can use TV shows, videos, series, or movies. They are also fun and very helpful in practicing listening and speaking, whether I use the TV behind me in my room or whether I use a video on screen. I can pause the video and students can talk about their opinions about what has been said. Storytelling is very important, and the importance of storytelling lies in that our life is all about telling stories. When we go to the doctor, we tell a story. When we communicate with our friends, when we communicate with our family members, so everything is about telling stories. This is why storytelling provides authentic act, or it is an authentic activity, and it also helps students in learning from one another's experiences and one another's thoughts. We can also utilize podcasts by asking our students to create their own podcasts or listen to their friends' podcasts. Anchor.fm is a great tool. It is a podcast that allows students to create a collaborative podcast. It connects two students, and those two students can they could interview one another. They could create one podcast collaboratively. And the last tool is Flipgrid. I post a question on this platform. The students read the question and respond to it by recording a video of themselves talking about the topic or answering the question and pasting it in this platform. Now the videos are shown. The students can see all of the videos. Now, how can I make this interactive? I can tell the students that they have to write feedback to at least 3 students. So in this way, learning is collaborative. They practice both listening and speaking at the same time. Now let's move to the third skill, which is reading, which is also a passive skill. Passive, which means we said that students only receive, they do not produce. The more students read, the better they become in writing and in reading, and in writing, because when they read to great authors, they can learn from their styles. How can I make my students read online? I can send them assignments, send them digital materials, links to websites, to articles. I can also send them tasks that require reading. For example, tasks that require them to read many articles in order to find the answer to this question. Now, teaching reading synchronously is just like teaching listening synchronously. Both skills are passive, so both skills need support, need to be active, or need active materials. There are two strategies that I can implement in reading in order to make it active. The first one is flipped classroom. Just as I use flipped classroom in face-to-face learning, I can send students a topic to research, to prepare materials, to prepare a presentation about. And when the students meet online, I can send them to breakout rooms so that they can compare their findings, they can organize their findings, and then the students can teach the teacher. The importance of this strategy lies in that it is purely learner-centered. The student is the one who prepares, the student is the one who researches, and the student is the one who teaches. And as we all know, teaching is the most effective way of learning. Now, Mentimeter.com is a great tool for creating interactive presentations, which is a privilege for online teaching. In face-to-face learning, we cannot use these interactive presentations. So this presentation is helpful as it keeps students or keeps the audience attracted and involved. We simply send the link of this presentation on the chat box. The students click on the link and they start answering the questions. They can answer questions, they can brainstorm on through this word cloud, they can vote, they can rate items, they can put items or order events, and everything that they do is done anonymously, which means students can be encouraged because the results won't be shown or won't be revealed. There won't be names. So this is a great tool for presenting online. Now let's move to the second strategy, reading strategy, which is jigsaw reading. Again, just as we do in face-to-face learning, we divide students into groups. So we send students into breakout rooms and we provide each student in this group with only one part or one section of the reading material to read and then to tell the other group members about. The other group members have to be attentive, how to listen attentively so that they can have a full comprehension of the reading text. When all the groups are done, the teacher can invite them back to the main session and can check their understanding by asking comprehension questions or maybe by asking them to summarize the reading text. Now, why is this strategy important, especially in online teaching? First, it is social, it is collaborative. Second, it integrates all of the four skills at the same time. And thirdly, it gives students opportunities to learn from one another or to learn the material or comprehend the reading material by listening to it several times or from different sources or different students. Now, before moving to the last skill, I just want to talk about these assessment tools that we can implement online. Quizlet is good for beginners for teaching vocabulary. We can send vocabulary sets to students so that they can practice them using the different tools in the website. Kahoot is also a collaborative or interactive quiz that all students enjoy, young students and adults. And Socrative, what I like about Socrative is that it saves students' reports. It shows the student's name and the results, and it saves the reports even after they finish the quiz. Another website is LexTutor. This website is good for differentiating, or it helps teachers to differentiate the reading material. Sorry. What the teacher can do is that we can copy the reading material and paste it in this website, and this website tells us about the levels of the vocabulary in this reading text, so we can know which text to send to which students. Finally, the writing skill, which is a productive skill. We can make writing authentic by allowing our students to write emails to real people, write their diaries. We can encourage them to write to pen pals and encourage them to write blogs and post them on the social media platforms or websites. We can also make writing collaborative. And the importance of collaborative writing in online teaching is First, it minimizes feelings of social isolation, and it also helps students feel safe when they review their their writing assignment with their peers before they show it to the teacher, or before they submit it to the teacher, or before they read it in front of the class. There are different tools that help us in collaborative writing. The first one is Padlet. Padlet is like a digital bulletin board where students can post their writings, they can interact with one another's writing, they can also provide feedback. It is also a great tool for writing projects, so students can post their ideas, they can discuss their ideas at the same time. Another tool is the shared document. Shared documents are also a great tool for practicing collaborative writing. I can send students to breakout rooms and give them a writing task. And while I am in the main session, I can observe the shared document, which is on Google Drive. And when I notice that one of the groups isn't writing anything, I can visit the breakout room and check what problem they have after they finish writing. And of course, I set a time for this task. When time is over, I invite them back to the main session and they discuss their writings. If I want to assign writing or collaborative writing asynchronously, Etherpad is great as well, because it's a platform that allows students to write on one document at the same time, and it gives each student a different color. So you know, the teacher and also the students know which student wrote which, and it also allows students to comment on their friends' writing. If there is a mistake, if they want to edit something, they can use the chat box. They can also send recordings and videos. So it's also a great tool for writing projects. The last tool is discussion forums, and the importance of forums is that it helps a lot in minimizing social isolation. It allows students to interact, to collaborate, and to share their thoughts. How can I encourage my students to participate in these discussions or in these forums? I can send them tasks. I can tell them that there is a task. You have to post a discussion about this topic. You have to ask a question, and you have to answer at least one of your friends' questions. Of course, the teacher's role on or in these forums should be passive. Teachers should not answer questions, should not participate. Just let your students ask and answer one another. Let them share their thoughts. Now, assessment or feedback is very important in writing or in teaching writing. This is why there are different tools that help us provide assessment or feedback online to our students. One of which is the comment boxes on Google Docs. And this is why it's important to encourage your students to submit their writing assignments as documents, not as pictures of their books or notebooks. Also, I encourage you to use Google Classroom, as it saves all of the students' work. Google Classroom also has a feature of allowing you to create a digital rubric. It's very easy to use. You can add points to criteria. You can add as many criteria as you want. It's very helpful in checking assignments, and of course, students can see this rubric. Google Docs also has a great add-on, which is the Highlight add-on. Now, the Highlight add-on allows you to create color-coded criteria or mistakes types. And when you check the student's assignment, the students know that they know from the color that I have this number of mistakes in spelling and this number of mistakes in writing and so on. If the students have this add-on, they can export highlights, so all the mistakes will appear as sets according to their types. So it helps them in solving or correcting their mistakes fast. Now, if you are teaching a large group of students, it's definitely exhausting for you to write feedback to each student. So Google Chrome has an extension that's called Mote. This extension allows you to send oral feedback. Once you have this extension is automatically added to Google Classroom. So you can send an oral feedback to the students, and the students don't have to have this extension. They can view it and they can listen to it even if they don't have it. Finally, since self-assessment is very important in learning, it's good to encourage our students to activate the track changes feature in Google Docs. When they activate it, they submit the first draft to the teacher, and the teacher tells them about their mistakes. Whatever, when they add something, or when they edit their writing, everything or all the editions are saved in history. So when they want to write new writing assignments, they can refer to the history, and they can learn from their mistakes or avoid making them. They can also use it to track their progress. Now, before I finish my presentation, I just want to mention how important content-based learning, task-based learning, and project-based learning are in the online setting, because they help teachers provide collaborative learning. They help students practice the 4 skills at the same time. And to end this presentation, I just want to say we can view these circumstances as a chance for moving teaching from being teacher-centered to being learner-centered. It's a chance to use technology and to learn technology, which rules our work today. Here are some useful resources if you would like to take screenshots. Thank you so much for listening. And the presentation is done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hocam. It is really fruitful because you mentioned a lot of tools for the students and for the teachers as well. So thank you very much. We have plenty of time for a quiz session. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat box. By the way, since we don't have one presenter now, we have some time for the questions. So Duygu Hocam, if you have any questions to Duygu Hocam, you can also maybe write it from the chat box, or you can also ask it to her if she is also with us. So do you have any questions? If you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand or you can write it in the chat box. We have 2 or 3 minutes for the question and answer. Any questions, dear listeners? By the way, since we have this pandemic era for 2 years, we really realized that we needed online tools. We need to be some, in a way, digital learners, digital natives. So this kind of tools are really helpful especially for the language teachers to use in their classrooms, because we need communication. We need our students to be alert all the time, to share their experiences, and to foster all these skills. So really, it was a very beneficial presentation. Thank you, dear Hocam. So if you don't have any question, we can move on to our last speaker. Let me open the screen first.
Samira Hasanova.
I'm sorry. Efendim, ya?
Samira.
Ya, Samira?
Samira Hocam. Evet.
Okay, yeah. So we have 3 presenters here, but I think Samira Hocam is going to present. So she is Associate Professor Doctor from Odler Yurdu, Azerbaijan University, and the title of their presentation is Quality Levels in Electronic Distance Learning, so which is also a very important issue in language learning. So the stage is yours, Samira Hocam. So we have 20 minutes and with the question and answer part. So thank you very much for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I would like to greet everyone, all participants of this conference. And I would like to mention that I'm from Azerbaijan. I represent Odler University. We are 3 co-authors. And let me share my presentation with you. Just a minute. Can you see it on your screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. We have 3 authors. One of them is Assistant Professor Liliana Sirova. The other one is me, Samira Hasanova. I am head teacher at Udliver University. And the next one is Fidan Naghiba. The title of my presentation is our presentation, sorry, is Quality Levels in Electronic Distance Learning, and it refers to teaching online lessons during pandemics, to teaching and organization of online lessons during pandemics. And you know that nowadays, taking into consideration recent situation, online lessons are very essential for education. And this research is devoted to problems and solutions of distance learning. And the main purpose of this research is to analyze the problems that prevent students from studying better in distance education, and also to provide their solutions. Computer technology and distance learning together have given a lot in the field of education. And the essence of distance learning is that students can receive the necessary knowledge in their professional fields using internet technologies. And it's important to mention also that in this way, we also have advantages and disadvantages of using sorry, online lessons. And moreover, the problem of the quality of education is one of the central ones in modern educational policy and science, because it's associated with solving a set of tasks aimed at developing an individual, preparing students for life, for their educational life in rapidly changing and contradictory world. A person with high moral aspirations and motivates for highly professional work. The world society, you know that the world society has entered a new phase of its evolutionary development. In other ways, it's the phase of the information society, which is characterized by the intensive penetration of information and communication technologies into all spheres of human life, and the role of information resources in this way is becoming no less important than material and energy resources. And information activity and information technology are becoming integral components, main part of almost all types of professional activity. The introduction of new technologies into learning process allows us to use modern electronic means to support educational sphere, and the desire of educational institutions to use information and communication technologies in the education system is dictated by social, pedagogical, and technological reasons. The quality of education, you know, that it's a multi-faced and important phenomenon, and is the stage, at this stage, sorry, development of the education system all over the world, the problem of the quality of education becomes a priority. The crisis caused by a dangerous new coronavirus required urgent measures to reduce the risks of the spread of infection in various spheres of people's lives and activities. In the field of education, an emergency transfer of the educational process to a distance from using e-learning technologies was chosen as such as one of the measures. And in the face of the threat of the spread of coronavirus infection, most universities and colleges around the world have decided to change to distance learning. And at the same time, I would like to mention that it should be noted that the crisis served as a stimulus for innovation in the field of education is very important, and innovative approaches are used to ensure the continuity of education and training, taking into consideration, for example, radio, TV broadcast, and at the same time online lessons to support educational process. And nowadays, distance learning has proven its importance and relevance in this way. The modern development, for example, of distance education is carried out under the influence of practical requests and interests in society. And distance education is generally indispensable for cities and countries that don't have access to any education. This makes education accessible to everyone. And distance education allows allows any student to overcome psychological barriers related to communication qualities such as shyness, phobia of public speaking, and etc. Distance education is mobile, which means that the student always has access to current issues, and all you need is the internet, that's all. Distance education is available wherever students are, and first of all, high-speed internet is needed for a student to receive this education. Through distance education, students can study at universities all over the world, and at the same time, this kind of education has become a global phenomenon, educational and informational culture. Distance learning technologies are educational technologies implemented using information and telecommunication technologies, indirect, in other words, at a distance interaction of students and teaching staff. Distance learning is a universal humanistic form of education based on the use of e-learning and distance educational technologies that create conditions for the student to choose educational disciplines of basic and additional education, dialogue exchange with the teacher, while the process training doesn't depend on the location of the student in space and time. In the current situation, for example, associated with a high risk of infection with coronavirus, the only possible and adequate response of universities and colleges to an external challenge was a temporary full transition to distance learning. And in these conditions, all possible resources of universities, partner universities, external providers of content and services were used to implement the educational process using the internet. The important requirement for the situation, for the system, were its reliability and the bandwidth of the internet channels, the easy of creating and placing content, the availability of services and platforms for teachers and students. Teachers, for example, for this reason, teachers are forced to organize the educational process through distance learning technologies based on various methods of delivering electronic content and available communication tools for students and teachers in the electronic information and educational environment. The use of distance learning confirms the relevance and novelty of this direction of education developments and brings us closer to understanding the essence of distance learning, which is one of the ways to get modern education. And I would like also mention that in this way, we also have advantages of using distance education. And one of them is using of distance learning technologies, which allows us to reduce the cost of training. Next one is training a large number of people, then improving the quality of education through using of modern information and communication technologies. At the same time, creating unified educational environment, using of audio and video documents and their integration, independence from the time and the location of the student and the trainer. At the same time, I can also here mention availability of training materials at any time, increasing in the intensity of the educational process, the ability to self-control, the degree of assimilation of the material on each topic, and additional motivation for cognitive activity, and etc. Today, distance learning gives us the opportunity to create systems of mass continuous self-learning for the general exchange of information, regardless of time and space. The distance learning system allows us to acquire the necessary skills and new knowledge using a personal computer and access to the internet. Then the didactic principles of organizing distance learning are the same as in full-time education, but their implementation is different, which is due to the specifics of the new form of learning by their capabilities of the internet information environment and its services. On the other hand, we also have here disadvantages. One of them is that in order to implement educational programs using exclusively e-learning distance education technologies in an organization carrying out education activities, should be created for the functioning of the electronic information and educational environment, which includes electronic information resources, a set of information technologies, telecommunication, educational programs, and etc. Another equally important problem, I think it's personal problem, because it's not enough to provide a teacher with a computer, with high-speed internet and electronic device, textbook, and etc. But it's also necessary to teach the teacher how to use all these wells, all this equipment, to provide this teacher with modern methodological development, and etc. And in this way, nowadays, some universities try to solve these problems. For example, I'm a teacher at Udlayurda University, Azerbaijan, I'm a representative of this university, and I would like to mention that, for example, Udlayurda University could overcome the given difficulties by organizing free computer courses for it's completely ready for distance education. Moreover, it's important to mention that our university has also necessary equipment for this reason. And here you can see pictures of our online lessons. And I would like to mention that nevertheless, the changes that have taken place make one thing that the promising learning prospects and the accelerated transformation of the delivery of quality education cannot be viewed in isolation from the critical task of ensuring that no one is left behind. This applies to students, to children, to youth suffering from a lack of resources or an enabling environment for access to learning. When education systems collapse, the task of building peace and prosperous, a productive society becomes impossible. A massive effort all over the world in a short time to respond to shocks in education systems reminds us that transformation is achievable. And in conclusion, I would like to add that consequently, distance learning can satisfy the needs of society and form a personality that can be successfully realized in its introduction. At the same time, the introduction of distance components into the educational process, and it can help us to improve the quality of training taking into consideration the individual characteristics of students, personalization of the educational process. It means teaching students on an individual schedule that can quickly change in accordance with their current employment and the rate of information perception. And e-learning, use of distance learning educational technologies are widely used at various levels of education. Distance learning allows each person to study at their own pace based on personal capabilities and characteristics, and also not to limit themselves in the regional choice programs. With the use of e-learning distance educational technologies is the availability to electronic information resources. That's all. And at last, sorry. Here at last you are given, here you can see references of this article. And I would like also to add that I thank you Bardin University for this conference. It's a very good opportunity for us to share our information, to share our opinions with other representatives. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Hocam. Yeah, this opportunity to share and to get the idea of how we can improve our teaching and learning environment in foreign language during the pandemic. So these 2 days were really very beneficial and fruitful for all of us. And thank you for your presentation, for your nice, fruitful, beneficial presentation. So dear listeners, do you have any questions? So we have some more minutes for your questions. You can type in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and open your microphone and ask it directly. Yeah, we have one question. Yes, please, Azuddin Ruhazi. You can write it, or you can just directly ask your question by opening your microphone. Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Samira Hassanova. Thank you so much for your interesting presentation. I would like also to thank Barton University. My quick question, and very quick and short question. I would like her to ask you about the increasing using of artificial intelligence applications, tools and techniques, and other many applications, such as, for instance, retrieval information and other cognitive activities. How can the increasing using of this artificial intelligence applications can improve, can optimize distance learning of different languages, such Arabic language, for instance? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. By the way, nowadays, yes, you are right that in teaching, in online teaching, it's very important to use additional material. At the same time, you have mentioned artificial, can you repeat it? Cognitive
activities.
Yes,
cognitive, exactly.
Do you mean, sorry, do you mean here presentations, slides?
Yes, exactly. Yes, your presentation slides.
I think, for example, to my mind, that everything depends on teacher. It's teachers' own choice to use cognitive materials, for example, slides, presentations, maybe videos, audio material, and etc. And it depends, first it depends on choice of teacher, and second depends on equipment, if you have these possibilities, this opportunity to do, and that's all. For example, in my lessons, I use such kind of material, such kind of additional material, and I think it's very interesting for students.
Yes.
I have no, by the way, I have no idea about Arabic language because I don't know this language.
Not only Arabic language, but also French, for instance, Russian.
I can mention, Turkish. For example, I know Russian, English languages. You know that Azerbaijani and Turkish, I think they are my native languages. That's why I don't mention these languages. But as foreign languages, I know Russian and English languages. In this way, I also teach Russian and English languages. And in this way, I also use additional material. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other question? So by the way, I think according to your question, I think the next step will be, this artificial intelligence for language learning. So maybe, they won't take our place, but this artificial intelligence will be very important and useful in learning and teaching languages. So now you know that there are some tools that we use to learn a language. There are a lot of applications, etc. So since now everything is going to be digital and digitalized, so in the upcoming years, why not we can have these digital tools and also these artificial intelligences to teach languages. So maybe they won't be as as effective as teachers, but if we have to go online, so they will be very helpful for our teaching environment. So now unfortunately, we are really having difficult times, and I hope that everything will become better in the near future. So the teachers will take part lively in our classes as well. I hope so. If not, if we cannot, so maybe we can share our classrooms with some kind of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligences, maybe they can be a robot, or maybe they can be some other applications. So we will see. Thank you. Any other question? Dear participants. Yeah, Hocam, I think, are you going to say something?
Okay, and now we will show you the certificate of the participation.
Thank you very much, our dear presenters, for your very fruitful, nice presentations. Thank you too, Sayın Hocam. This is my certificate. So first of all, thank you very much for it.
Duygu İşpınar hocam.
Duygu Hocam.
الأستاذة ميسام hocam.
Meysen Hocam.
Fidan hocam.
Fidan Hocam for the certificate.
Evet, hem de Gökçe hocam. Samira.
Samira Hocam. And finally, Umiye Hocam. So they are going to be sent to all our presenters. So thank you very much for your fruitful, beneficial presentations. So this is end of our session, but
You can open the camera to take a group picture.
Yeah, okay, yeah. If you can, everyone, can you please open your cameras?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So hope to see you in the following sessions. Have a nice day. Thank you. I am ending the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.